The City of Champions once again representing football style here on the latest Six Rings and Football Things, brought to you by your friends at WEEI, Odyssey, and 2400 Sports. And I got to say, if your football bucket has been a little empty these days, or not quite as full as your basketball bucket or your baseball bucket, because, well, the Boston Celtics are the world champions and the Red Sox suddenly are hot in a $2 pistol. Well, don't you worry, because Fitzy and Hart are here with so much football today to talk from the wide world of New England Patriots. First things first, we're going to get into this little bit of off-season NFL programming the geniuses at 345 Park Avenue came up with. That's right. The NFL Network had a special on this week. Who made the Mount Rushmore of every NFL team? The New England Patriots one, pretty rock solid, I got to say, although there is a little bit of room for debate there. We'll talk about that and some of the other Rushmores on the up top. In the middle here today, we'll get into Pat's Paris. That would be all the news, notes, and nuggets from around the wide world of Patriots Nation. And we will finish up with the latest in our off-season Patriots positional previews, OPPP. Yes, you know we. Today, we're going to talk linebackers. All right, Hart, let's get into it. So this latest little bit of off-season programming that the NFL Network came up with, we are in what is truly the deadest of dead zones when it comes to football right now. We're a month away from training camp for all the NFL teams. So really ain't much going on. Last week, as we spoke with Andrew Callahan, he reminded us right now, your veterans are not giving an F. They are all taking as much time as they need to right now. The rookies are installing and trying to figure out what the heck they're doing. It makes total sense. And fans right now, understandably, are probably taking a little bit of an emotional football break as well. That's why off-season programming and content like who made the respective Mount Rushmores of every NFL team are good for us to be able to chew up and spit around, bat it around a little bit and see who are the four greatest players for each team. What was your first thought when you saw that the NFL put this out? And what were your initial thoughts on the Patriots Mount Rushmore? I should let the audience know. The Patriots Mount Rushmore being, Brady, Gronk, Hannah, and Ty Law.
So the first part was like, oh, yeah, they've reached that point where we've all done this on a random radio shift. Hey, you want to do the Boston Sports Rushmore or the Celtics Rushmore or whatever? So we've reached that point. That was my first thought. Then my second was, yeah, it's fine. It's interesting. People will, watch it and talk about it and debate it. And it is good. I always joke about why we just because they put four heads on a mountain, why do we have to limit it to four? Why isn't it five? Why isn't it three? And that whole thing. But then when you get into the details, the other issue that you have for the Patriots, if you were going to do a true Mount Rushmore, Bill Belichick's on it. I know this is players, but like if you were just doing that, Belichick's on it.
Oh, nice wrinkle. I didn't even think of that.
I mean, he's got to be. Like,
yeah, and in which case, like, here's one, for example, the Green Bay Packers, goal. Theirs is wide receiver Don Hudson, Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers. Makes a lot of sense, I guess.
Yeah, but it's three quarterbacks. I hate that. That's quarterback bias. That's like the Super Bowl.
Well, there's a lot of that on these, bud.
No, I know, and I hate that. And I know I've preached like you got to take Drake May because you got to have a quarterback because all that matters in football is a quarterback. I hate it. But that mentality, especially a historic organization like the Packers, to be like, yep, we're just going to go with all the quarterbacks, Star. And I just, and Star, I would put on there historically. There's some, and I know they're all won MVPs and the whole thing. I just
you cannot, but it's like in this particular instance, I understand the QB bias, but in this particular instance, it's pretty tough to argue against Favre and Rodgers as well in there.
Yeah, but I bet I could get some, and I don't know. The Packers have had some historically great players, especially like linemen from the 60s and 50s and all that. And I just, like, if you could get one of the Patriots all-time greats on here. So John Hannah was coached by, I don't know, the name doesn't matter, but he was an all-time great Packers lineman. Fuzzy something, I don't know.
Fuzzy something. I had one of those last night with dinner.
If you had Hannah on here, I'm sure he could argue why three quarterbacks, Hannah, who hates Tony Eason, who probably hates a lot of soft modern quarterbacks. He could probably argue like, that's ridiculous. You're telling me the four best Packers in history, three of them are quarterbacks. So that is one thing that the quarterback bias bothers me a little. Secondary to that is if I were doing a true Patriots Rushmore, it would be the two guys we talked about a couple of weeks ago at Brady night. It'd be Brady and Belichick, and all the rest of y'all can fall in line behind those two. Those are the top of the
but I think it would be super. I think the argument can be made for the two teams we're discussing herein that their coaches should absolutely be on there. And then, of course, the Cleveland Browns with Paul Brown. But the Patriots Rushmore, if you could just put all personnel, coaches, whomever, would absolutely be, it would go Brady, Belichick, and then probably Hannah Gronk. And that's easy. That's it. Well, it's done. It's over.
I need to
then Lombardi in place of who for the Packers?
Rodgers.
Oh, wow. Over Favre?
Yeah.
They each won one Super Bowl.
I know, but I just look at, I don't know. I mean, that's a debate that can be had. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to go down as one of the great underachievers of this generation or any generation in the National Football
He's on his way.
Like, just the regular season winning, the pure talent, the boat. Always the boat. And what does he have to show for it? And he's kind of a dink. Like, and I know Favre was kind of a dink too. But Favre was a different kind of dink. He was like a troubled dink with like substance.
He was a reckless dink. He was like the friend that like if we were all out at a bar celebrating the Celtics championship, each one of us would have to take turns keeping an eye on Favre because it would either be too much or who's he trying to hook up with or who did he start a fight with? Like, there's a wild card factor there.
But you kind of like him. Like he's a friend.
Oh,
whereas Aaron Rodgers is part of your social circle, and you're like, why do we hang out with this guy? We roll our eyes every time we're with him. Like we're embarrassed.
Started on politics at the dinner table. I hate going out for burgers with Rodgers.
Yeah. So
also, I'm sad that I trusted my insurance money with Favre.
There's various issues for both of them, pictures and phones and everything. There's lots of stuff going on. So let's just to narrow it to the Patriots. And just say, forget the Belichick part, the coaching part, the players.
But now I can't because you got me hooked on that.
Well, I mean, I can't believe you didn't. It's kind of obvious. If you start with the Patriots, you start with Brady and Belichick.
I apologetically got very, football field myopic in my focus, but you're 1,000% right.
Okay, but let's play their style and its players.
Let's play their game.
So I agree 100% on Brady. I agree 100% on Hannah. I agree 100% on Gronk. And to me, the debate begins in the 4 slot with Ty Law, where I think there is a pretty disrespectful lack of acknowledgement and awareness for one Andre Tippett. I think Tippett, I would put Tippett over Law. It may be personal. I like him. I grew up at the right time where he was sort of part of my sports heroes, the Bo Jackson era, the Andre Tippett era, those guys.
He was one of the only guys to root for back this, unless you had a Stanley Morgan jersey.
He had the unenviable positioning of playing in the shadow of Lawrence Taylor. I think if he had played a different time, Andre Tippett would be looked at as one of the greatest defensive players in the history of the game. But the fact is, he played when Lawrence Taylor played, and that doesn't do him any favors. And the style of play was fun. So I personally, no disrespect to Ty Law, and there's others, if you want to tell me Richard Seymour is a Hall of Famer and should be in the consideration, or whoever else you may want to argue, but I think I would put Tippett in just a slight nose ahead of Law.
Yeah, I agree because, we always jest, Andre Tippett wears his pants with a black belt. He's a badass. First or second on the team for 10 straight seasons in sacks, 100. He made the triple-digit sack club. There are very few members of the triple-digit sack club.
In a different time. That number has been deflated over time because quarterbacks throw a bazillion times. So when a quarterback throws a bazillion times, that means there's more opportunities for the defense to get sacks. He sacked the quarterback a lot when the other team was actually still running the ball and running games. And like it was not a drop back, stand in the pocket, wait, get hit kind of era like we see now. So I actually think I need some analytics dude to put his 100 sacks in perspective. I got to think that's like 140 today or something like that.
Easily $1.25. Yeah. And I'm sure you could ask the Watt brothers, you could ask Myles Garrett, you could ask Danielle Hunter or any of the pass rushing specialists of the modern NFL, and they would all probably tell you like, oh yeah, Andre Tippett's he's one of the pass rushing goats for sure. I would put Tippett there as well, just for fun, for a little S&G. Let's make maybe like a little, for your consideration, backup Rushmore. So Tippett is first and foremost in place of Ty Law. I agree with you with Seymour. The thing is, even though he's got the bona fides of the yellow jacket and the bronze bust in Canton, he doesn't have any statisticals really to back up for it. But any single person who ever coached or played against him would tell you that's one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time.
Or with him. The guys that played behind him and around him and said, boy, my job was a lot easier when Seymour was around.
really, really, really a lot easier. Mike Haynes, probably, even though he spent half his career with the Raiders as well. He was still pretty damn good when he was here.
That's the problem with some of those early years guys that played other portions of their career elsewhere. Like Nick Bonacani, I think, is in that world, played for the Dolphins later as part of their great defense and everything.
There's a fun one. And I think just because of the sheer impact of some of his plays, with all due respect to many of the other, great players, the Mosses, the Welkers, the Edelmans, who probably would like to have their name called out or their voice heard. I think just because of the magnitude of 3 specific plays, I probably have to put Vinatieri in the 4 spot on my backup Rushmore / for your consideration.
Yeah, I would have Vinatieri very much in the running because an argument can be made he's the greatest kicker of all time. Now, then it's like, well, where does the greatest kicker of all time weigh in with the greatest quarterback of all time, tight end of all time, guard of all time? You know what I mean? Like, They got some goats, and that puts him probably on that second tier. I think Ben Coates is in like a second tier conversation. He, again,
over Bledsoe? Wow.
Like Tippett. Oh, absolutely. Because Ben Coates is closer to like all-time great than Drew is. Drew's really good quarterback, second best quarterback in the history of the franchise until May passes him. Like I love Ben Coates in that if he didn't play behind Gronk, or he didn't play in that era, or played in this era and actually got to play in January and February more often, I think people would remember Ben Coates as a totally different player. Shorter run, and, similar to Gronk, that if you're going to take that kind of an ass whooping, you're probably not going to last very long at that position. The way,
and also while wearing number 87, won a Super Bowl with another team. Gross.
Yeah, no, it's. So
I think he's got a ring.
I think Stanley Morgan should probably be on some sort of a tier. Again, high-class problems for the Patriots because you do have so many truly elite players that have come through, especially, weighted a little bit generationally. Like some people would want to probably put Gino Cappelletti in there. I don't know that he really measures up in terms of, GOAT status, but certainly an all-time Patriot great, and the numbers, the all-time leading scorer, and the versatility, and
coming out of the AFL as a trailblazer too. There's a little bit of the respect for
and
the
great
fact.
guy. I get swayed by that. The nicest.
Hell, man. In this case, well, I'd almost even make an argument for freaking Gil Santos being up there because he was so damn good at what he did for so long for the team. But that being said, I think we can all agree the Mount Rushmore should be, if you're just talking about people that controlled or had a direct influence on the game, Brady, Belichick, Gronkowski, and Hannah as well. Like if you're a team like, I thought this was probably, as accurate an assessment as you could possibly have for a Rushmore. The Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, Julius Peppers, Steve Smith. I mean, that's like an inarguable Rushmore. Now, granted, their history is also decades shorter than the Patriots or the legacy teams like the Packers as well. But that's kind of perfect. Teams that are teams where their radio stations will have the phone lines lit up for days because it's so difficult. A team like the Steelers, right?
Yep.
I mean, there's probably 15 different guys on the Steelers, and I know they've got Bradshaw and Roethlisberger on there. I even heard people on our radio station arguing like, this is bananas. You can't have those guys. The Swans and the Stalwarts and Webster and so many other players.
Yeah, there's so many, and that's where quarterback gets the bias. Like quarterback gets the nod, and it's, you think of them. They've had some of the greatest centers in the history of the sport. Dimitri Dawson and Mike Webster and those guys. Like that's how deep a franchise they've been. And of course, simpletons like us are always going to lean to who put this together, by the way. Did we have like I know it was NFL Films, but was there like
I don't think they said like it was like a relative of the Sables and Greg Rosenthal and Daniel Jarrett. I don't think they told us who the committee was that selected.
Okay. Yeah, because I also always wonder about generation.
Their safety.
But I always wonder about the generational aspect to it and sort of who you saw. Like, this would be a fun thing if Bill just wanted to, start a blog now that he's got some downtime and he's just hanging out on the boat and he just wanted to, do these things. He's actually commenting on his own Instagram feed and signing it BB like the presidents do when they make it their own. But if he wanted to do something like this based on his top 100 players of all time he took part in and all that, I would love to see him, Bill Belichick's rundown of the Rushmores for every team and
that
see
would
his
be
perspective.
Right. He may tell you that Jack Lambert, Terry Bradshaw, Joe Green, Ben Roethlisberger is solid, but he'll rattle off 19 other players, 11 of which, and we consider ourselves relative football hardos who probably know the stars and studs and Hall of Famers of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s and beyond for most teams. He'd probably rattle off 5 or 6 names. You'd go, I'm sorry, Bill, who?
Right. Oh, yeah. But these are fun. I do think the Patriots won. They did a good job. Like, you can't say definitively, well, this Pro Football Hall of Famer is way better than that Pro Football Hall of Famer, right? Like, so
Right.
Ty Law, Andre Tippett, you're lucky you have a lot of Hall of Fame caliber talent that's played now over generations. And that's why I also wondered, was it a sheer younger committee and they're just like, Ty Law, I don't know who Andre Tippett really was. I know he was in the Hall of Fame, but I didn't really see him play.
He does have he does lead the Patriots in so many individual defensive statistics and also 3 Super Bowls, high splash play in a Super Bowl, dominating Peyton Manning in a couple of those AFC playoff games as well.
But again, that's where the Coateses and the Tippetts of the world, I would say, yeah, put them on better teams, and I think you'd be remembering and glorifying all their impact plays, right? Like, you know who's a dark horse here? Doesn't deserve consideration in a way, but does deserve consideration in a way if you're talking in that sense.
We're here for it. Go ahead.
Your linebackers coach, Dante Hightower. Like, he had a really underrated career that's not going to get maybe the credit it deserves. Like, for example,
he deserves you're absolutely right. He deserves every single bit. If Ty Law is your first half of the double dynastic run defensive star that makes the Rushmore, Dante Hightower made just as many impactful plays in Super Bowls, if not maybe actually more.
And I'm going to say something right now that you people may not like.
All right.
You people.
Yep.
All you people.
You've already made everyone feel good about it.
Dante Hightower blows Teddy Bruschi's career out of the water. But I think most passionate Patriots fans just have a first portion of the dynasty soft spot in their heart for Teddy Bruschi. And this is no disrespect to Teddy Bruschi. Really good player, really good teammate, really good Patriot, really good champion, everything. Dante Hightower was a physical freak who made some of the biggest plays in the franchise's history to win. Bill said it the other day at the Tom Brady event. Like, I don't know how some of those Super Bowls go if we don't have Dante Hightower. Like,
correct.
These banners up here, you wouldn't have needed to do the construction to make room for more banners. You could probably squeeze it down a little bit.
And also, and we'll kick it into the next leg of the podcast with Pat's Puri coming up in just a quick second. But this is one I have fun discussing and debating here and wherever else there are frosty cold beverages and hearty football dialogues, otherwise known as Snapchats, around these parts. When the Patriots, if they ever do retire the number 87, you best honor 2 people on that night and not just say that's Gronk's number, because we were lucky enough to have 2 people wear this number, each of which deserve Patriots Hall of Fame recognition and potential NFL Hall of Fame recognition with Ben Coates and Rob Gronkowski. Same deal for 54. I think if you're going to retire 2 more numbers and then just say we're going to go Ring of Honor from this point forward, Dante Hightower and Teddy Bruschi both were legends wearing 54, and I would feel awkward if I were anyone else wanting to wear those numbers, 87 or 54, going forward.
It's kind of like 10 from Mac Jones to Drake May.
How about Jimmy Good? No.
Oh, wait.
All right. What do you say, Pats fans?
There's a history of that being a soft quarterback number.
I know. Bold of Drake May to want to continue the number going forward as well. And of course, we all know that young Thomas Edward Patrick Brady would have worn number 10 as well on the Patriots if it weren't for, who was it again who was wearing it at the time?
I'm going to say Lee Johnson, but I'm not sure if that's right.
Yes, correct. I was going to say Lee Bodden, but that was actually the wrong Lee. It was Lee, not Leigh. Anyway.
You're off by like 12 years.
Yeah, but I had the first name right-ish. Give me a little credit.
First name right and the generation wrong is wrong.
All right, mute his microphone. Oh, that's right. We don't have a producer. He's at the Auerbach Center. All right, what do you say, Pats fans? Do you like the Patriots Mount Rushmore? Fun little activity. Any other Rushmores that the NFL Network put out that you like? Holler at your boys, Fitzy and Hart. I'm at Fitzy GFY. He's at Jumbo Hart. And of course, this right here is the at Six Rings Pod. All right, we're moving on to some Pats Paris right now, Andy. We got a lot of just like nothing seismic or monumental going on in Pats Nation right now. Just a lot of little things that merit discussion here on the pod because that's how we do. First things first. According to a story in The Athletic recently, if the New England Patriots were to play a game that means something now, which they are not, thank God, Jacoby Brissett would in fact be the starter. If when we get to camp, Drake May and Jacoby Brissett their play is commensurate to one another, if they're on an even playing field, like Brissett's had a good camp, Drake May's had a good to very good camp. If they are neck and neck, Brissett will be the default starter, with May looking to possibly get in sooner than most had expected. It is going to take, again, according to The Athletic, but these are probably the same reasonably informed sources that you and I hang out with on Media Hill and that you often discuss football matters with in some of those post-practice Six Rings pods. It's going to take Drake May clearly beating out Jacoby Brissett in order to win the starting job week 1 for the Patriots. I still don't see that happening. So I think we all just sort of need to come around on the idea that it's going to be number 14 and not number 10 under center week 1, September 8th, 1 in the PM out in the Natty against was he modeling for Versace, Joe Burrow? Was he in Paris? Justin Jefferson and Joe Burrow were modeling for Versace in
Paris. You know that whole no diva quarterbacks? That has to push the boundaries of whether he's a diva quarterback or not. And I don't think he is, because you also have that famous story. Who told it? Elliot Wolf, about like when they asked Joe Burrow what his favorite memory was. It was like playing middle linebacker in high school football and stopping somebody on the goal line or something. Like, I don't think Joe Burrow is a diva quarterback, but he kind of does some things that are diva-ish. What do you like to say? Diva adjacent?
Diva adjacent. Very well done, Hart. I will say this, though. He looked pretty damn good. Like he got rid of the Anakin Skywalker hair. He's back to the Joey Burr cut, and he looked like, not going to say. I think a lot of people saw that and went, would
you?
I bet he pushed his way past a lot of other former players or current NFLers onto some hall pass lists after that one. That being said, anyway, Brissett will be your starter unless otherwise validated by
to me, this conversation has always been about October. Is he ready by October? Is he not ready? Is it late October? Or like, I've always just kind of penciled in Brissett for month 1. And May had a nice I keep saying it, up and down progression. Mm-hmm. There were some highs and some lows, but he's overall sort of moving his way along in progression. But I never felt like, oh, he's got to be the starter. And I think some of it will be circumstantial. We've talked about this. The offensive line, give them a chance to settle in, figure out who they are, what they are before you put the future of the franchise out there. And no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, but you're expendable. The other guy's not. And so if we're going to have runaway rushers and problems early in the year, you're going to take the lumps and the hits that go along with it. So also, if you just recall, my memory, I anointed quite braggadociously in June that Mac Jones was going to be the starter, not Cam Newton. And it played out that way. I do not feel that same mindset, mentality, observation of what was going on. Like, it just didn't feel like fast track Drake May and get him out there. Plus, we have Alex Van Pelt just flat out on the record. Jacoby Brissett's our starter. And
same with Elliot Wolf.
Yeah. So, like, I think they came in with a plan and a timeline. And I think it would be, I won't say impossible, but again, I'd put it at like 10% chance for Drake May to alter that timeline. Now, I have a expedited timeline of, like I said, 4 games-ish. Now we got to talk and figure out what's going on. Now we're talking Drake May time.
So you're taking the under on my 6.5 games until Drake May starts.
Right now.
I'm taking the over.
I reserve the right to change that as camp goes on. Oh, we started hitting and now he looks like it's moving a little fast for him. He's not quite ready or doesn't bounce back from certain things. But yes, right now, I'm looking toward 4 games into the season. I'm starting to think about it's time to put damn Drake May on the field and start the future.
Quick reminder for all of our listenerships. Patriots open the season, like I said, in Cincinnati, September 8th, 1 p.m. against the Bengals. Then they have their home opener. They host the Seahawks. Then they have a Thursday night quick turnaround at the Jetropolitans. Then they have 10 days to prepare for the whooping of the century at 4:05, September 29th, out in San Francisco. I wonder if the most interesting thing about that game won't be will Drake May finally see the field next week? It could be, might that be the only game Brady gets? Like if that's a Fox game, we don't know who's broadcasting a lot of these games except for Netflix on Christmas, Thursday night games for Amazon, and of course your Monday night football games for ESPN and ABC. A lot of the rest of the CBS Fox action has yet to be decided, but that could potentially be the Tom Brady calls a Patriots game, which would be kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I think there's probably another one later at a statue game. I'm guessing the league and Fox and everybody's going to do Robert a solid because Robert said there's going to be a 12-foot statue later this season. I would circle the Rams game in November.
I was going to say November 17th, Ramajamas at your Patriots. And that could also, Andy, be when you could have a Drake May start there because that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That would be the 11th ball game of the season.
Too long. No. Oh,
Too long?
No. Oh, no. Okay, so I would circle that as a potential Brady game too. Circling back around to that 49ers game, coming off a Thursday night, you have an extended period to prepare for the 49ers. I think that week you could see an uptick in Drake May's practice reps, not in preparation to start necessarily, but in preparation when that game gets out of hand to see decent garbage time in the second half. And then the week after that, make his first start, having 2 weeks of extended practice reps, including that time period. I'm throwing that timeline out.
A home game against the Dolphins and a potentially overcompensated Tua Tagovailoa. Well, Hawk Tua, wouldn't that be something?
I love how much that is taken off.
It is insane. It's bananas.
Now, it's awful. I mean,
it's terrible.
By God, that girl has a father. And
I was literally going to say, like you joke around, like if your kid smashes a baseball and you just yell from the stands, like, yeah, son, that baseball had a family. That's in jest. We can't personify actual sports items or, inanimate objects. This girl, she has a family and relatives, and her dad, there's no doubt her dad has seen that at this point and just gone,
oh, this has gone viral like few things that are, questionable or blue or whatever world you want to put that in. I don't know
if anything goes this viral period anymore.
But usually if it goes this viral, it's safer. Whereas this is close to a third rail. And there are like legitimate social media accounts that have made references to this, use this in their social media plan for this week. And I feel bad. I mean, the poor girl, she's clearly liquored up when she does the interview. And everybody knows what we're talking about. If not, look it up. It's funny.
You
right
like
up until you find out it's your
people,
daughter.
Like we all probably learned of it, Andy, by first seeing like, why is there a picture of AJ Hawk next to Tua Tagovailoa? I don't understand why this is on my timeline. Click on link. Oh. Sometimes, I'm sure my wife would tell you, considering that there hasn't been a dry toilet seat for her to sit on in our house for over 10 years, she probably would have loved at least a daughter since we have 2 boys. That said, there are days like this where I'm super glad I am the father of 2 boys because I would not know how to handle this. That was an unexpected digression, but when you're doing 6 rings and football things with the very mature and highly developed Andy Hart and Nick Fitzy-Stevens, this is how you get.
Wait a minute. No. We're not taking any blame for this. The entire world has embraced this as a meme.
I apologize for nothing.
Yeah. It just shows we're all immature and a little perverted at heart.
Correct. Now, Andy, we were discussing, I also wanted to mention, we kind of eked into it a little bit there, but did you happen to see, you may have seen a quick clip of Brady in the UFL championship in the booth with, I forget, it was Kurt Menefee and Charles Johnson. No, somebody else. I forget who it was. Anyway, long story short, he shows up in the booth a couple days after Brady night looking like $1 million. Sounds great, looks great, totally playing the part. Hell, I'm telling you still right now, depending on how things go Thursday night with our 2 uber geriatric presidential candidates, if Brady appeared in a video on his Instagram Friday and said, I am Tom Brady, and I am a candidate for U.S. president, we would have a new front runner by Sunday. Then Brady shows up on The Herd a couple days later. Did you listen to any of his appearance on The Herd?
I did.
The clips are too long to fold the whole one in here right now, but I just want to say, if we get a skosh, a tidbit, just a morsel, a nugget of how good he was on The Herd in the booth this fall and going forward with Kevin Burkhardt, people are going to be going beyond those 2017, like, whoa, this Tony Romo is unbelievable. It's like I've never heard a color analyst before in an NFL booth. Brady just taking you inside his mind and how and why he did everything the way he did, and the way quarterbacks and football players think play to play, series to series, game to game, was effing fantastic.
So I am now more optimistic about Brady as a color analyst based on what I've seen. I have a question, though. Is this going to be generational? Is he going to resonate with late 30s, 40s, 50 somethings, hardos, old school, in my day, football kind of people? And is he going to get eye rolls, as I said earlier, maybe from some of the younger generations, as he's describing quarterback the way he played it, the way he thinks it should be played? And some kid is like, I'm going to roll left, I'm going to throw right, and I'm going to put it on a dime at 70 yards, you old coot. I'm not going to keep my front shoulder tight, and I'm not going to have perfect mechanic. Like, I wonder if there's going to be a little generational interpretation or line here where, like, some people love Brady, and then some people are like, yeah, shut up, you goat. You had your run. We play different now.
But doesn't it help, though, that he's only now, a little over he's a year and a half removed from the playing field, still has relationships with all these guys, played against Allen, played against Burrow, played against Mahomes. Like, these were all actual contemporaries and adversaries of him as well. So for the next, at least, I think for the next half dozen years, I think he's spot on. Plus also the reverence they all show for him as well. I think that kind of keeps things in the proper perspective for Brady in the booth as well.
Yeah, no, I think the player part of it, I think they'll be respectful of him. I'm thinking more 13-year-old fans, 18-year-old fans, 22-year-old fans. I think there's going to be some fans that just look at him. We'll see. And the relationships you mentioned are also some of my concerns. How critical is he going to be willing to be? And some of those aspects that go into being the truly best color commentator. Because if everything's awesome and everything's great and the offense is awesome and the defense stinks, like, that gets old. That gets old quick, and your biases. And I hope I know he'll be self-deprecating. I know there will be jokes about himself and not being able to do what a lot of these guys can do, and the Allens and the Mahomes.
I could never move like that. I could never make that throw. Here's Kevin why I would never consider making that throw, because I just didn't have that ability that Josh Allen or who knows.
But I think
Jordan Love.
He'll be good in, like, he's just a smart guy who's seen a lot, and I think he'll be really good about systems and schemes and coordinator changes, and how valuable it was for him to play for 20 years in the same system, and how much they're probably hanging out, this quarterback X who now has his third coordinator in 3 or 4 years. No, I'm more optimistic about Brady, the color commentator, now than I was previously, but I still want to see it play out in exactly how if he's going to go all in, and he can't backtrack. That's the other thing.
He's committed.
Don't be like the freaking roast and be all in and collect your $30 million and be the executive producer and then bitch about it later. No, if you say something, own it.
Yeah, that was a CYA move, if ever before, which I think was a little unnecessary. It was dinkish. Did you see
that UFC guy that obliterated him for it? He did it in a very inappropriate fashion.
But, I was not a fan of that. Like, you have no quarrel. You have no business with Tom Brady in that capacity. Hush now.
But he wasn't wrong. He just may have, wanted to package it a little bit more.
He kind of overstepped his bounds a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say so, for sure.
Sometimes we get on a roll and you say things you regret later.
Otherwise, why do we even pod, bro? Quick side little digression here, and then we'll get to our last two little Pats nuggets before we hit the third and final leg, of course, which will be our Patriots off-seasonal position preview. Pop, sometimes I call it OPPP, sometimes I call it Pop. You never know. Just watch me for changes and try to keep up, people. I did work as the MC at a sports card and memorabilia show this past weekend in Marlboro for our friends at the Northeast Sports Card Expo. That was a fun little job.
Hey, were you also at Brady night? I forget.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Did you know I did 2 hours of the red carpet?
Yeah.
No script, too. Just flying by the seat of my pants. Not bad.
Give me that microphone.
Yeah, right. Have another one, Zoe. So, so, and then pass it back to me and say, I don't know what to do next. That was actually something everyone didn't hear. So like, I don't know. Anyway, Zoe is a legend.
In his own mind.
If I was going to say, for a lot of reasons, and in a special place called his mind. So anyway, working at the card show this weekend, I just thought this was interesting. I wanted to pass this along. So in going up and speaking to a lot of the different card dealers, I think you'd find this interesting. I kept asking them, what's the one card, the football cards, because football cards have come a long way. Baseball cards are kind of not the thing anymore. Now football cards are where the money is at. The price on some of them, good God. And there's too many to keep up with. 1 out of 1 million packs. Oh, this is the chrome one. This is the autograph one. This one has a jersey piece stitched into it.
How old are you?
I'm just catching up. 50, by the way. I'm
You're
catching up on 100.
Oh, there's too many cards, and this one has chrome, and this one.
Why don't you go survey all the cards, and you'll see, and you'll be like, wow, they really is.
But they're cool,
dude. It used to be Don Russ, Fleer, and Topps. That's it. You had to keep up with that. Now the Panini people who are, by the way, losing their rights. The Panini people are losing their exclusive card rights. Now Fanatics is going to get into the game.
Based on the way Fanatics has screwed up everything else, I'm sure they'll screw up cards as well. I was
going to say, we may lose them as a potential sponsor, but also I'm not too thrilled about what they may be doing in the card biz. Anyway, I thought you'd find this interesting. The two most requested cards and the interesting speculation card, I thought it might be Drake Mays, even regionally, because I've bought some Drake May rookies for my kids as investment pieces. Jordan Love and CJ Stroud are the two most requested, because people are way in on people have already bought their Mahomes and their Burrows. People are a little nervous about Burrow and the injury and if his card value will come down. Everybody laughs about how much Mac Jones cards used to be worth versus what they're worth now. Worst investment ever. The player that one dealer told me, keep an eye on, and maybe even a fellow like yourself who could be a little thrifty at times, but loves turning a dime into $1, said the player to maybe consider speculating on right now, because his stock couldn't be lower, but you can still go out and buy some very nice cards. And this season, they have nowhere to go but up. Bryce Young.
I can see that.
Dave Canales, Xavier Legette, Deontay Johnson. Bryce Young's apparently put on a ton of off-season muscle and weight this year, so he can try to keep up. Like, maybe he'll turn into the Carolina Kyler Murray that a lot of people could see him being. Not a terrible little piece of advice that guy gave off right there.
No, you're definitely buying low, and you're projecting that the love for him was more right than the hate for him. Basically, you're turning the clock back a year and saying there was a reason he was the number 1 pick. There was a reason that the Texans also wanted him as their quarterback before they settled on.
Let's remember that bit of revisionist history, correct? Because CJ Stroud, he's the number 1 card, by the way. He is everyone in the business. All the fans are expecting him to just, and with the roster that they've built down there, I'm still on the record saying AFC Championship this year for the Texans, but
I'm saying his cards are overvalued right now.
Wow. Steph Diggs, don't let him enter the chat. All right, last two little pieces. Speaking of over or undervalued, we have two little power ranking nuggets here for you to wrap up Pat's Paris. Pro Football Talk has put out their pre-camp power rankings. Andy, did you see it?
I did.
What do you think? 31st overall for your New England Patriots.
Well, since I have said there's a possibility this team goes 0-17, I believe it's kind of accurate. I joked with you that there's not going to be many games where you think the Patriots have the better team. Like, they play the Panthers, what's that, the first preseason game? I think. So that may be the last time when you think they're definitely the better team or they have the better roster or the better whatever. Now, there's other winnable games. Like, don't get me wrong, the Cardinals are on the list. The Titans are on the list.
Rams are on the list. Seahawks are on the list.
Yeah, but
who knows even what the Jags are going to look like this year?
The Jags, those are all in play, or debatable or talking points, depending on one team. Because that's the other thing. We know teams and players change dramatically from what we think of them in June, or even what we think of them in August and early September when we're drafting our fantasy teams. And you're like, what an idiot. Why did I think that guy was going to be so good? And you realize he stinks, and vice versa. Some guy that's going late is going to be a stud and the centerpiece of his team and blah, blah, blah. So all this is up for debate, but I don't know, like, they either start Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. So they have an unproven or proven, and you don't like him, quarterback, right? They don't have a left tackle. They don't have a receiver. Their defense is good, but as we've talked about, you're putting a lot of stock in a cornerback who's played 3.2 games in his career.
And a slot corner who is once again kicking to the outside out of need, and a slot corner who is coming back after the entire year missing his entire sophomore season with the same injury Gonzo had that caused him to miss 13 and a half games.
And a head coach and coaching staff that has never really done these jobs, any of them.
Nope.
So there's if you want to make an argument for why the Patriots are one of the worst teams in football, it's really easy to do, I guess is how I'd say.
Well, it could also be because ESPN says they have the 27th best roster overall.
Oh, so that's better than 31.
It is. On up. And that's funny because that comes off of our friend Mina Kimes saying the Patriots have a top 5 defense. So
what is her deal?
She loves a lot of things, but 2 of them are Jalen Polk at receiver and the Patriots defense.
Yeah, she loves numbers. That's what she loves. Oh, DVOA, XYZ, QRP, VORP. Put it all together, and they're pretty good. Yeah, I think she's nuts. And not just because I have questions about some of the talent, but also because a lot of those numbers, remember, are numbers. And numbers get exposed against good competition. And when you have the 49ers circled for a ass whooping. Christian McCaffrey, Debo, whatever.
Christian McCaffrey, dark horse candidate for MVP, according to NFL.com. Not much of a dark horse, if you ask me.
Well, you know what he's due for? Missed 6 weeks with a hamstring injury.
Right.
That's what he's due for. But that's a day right there. I feel pretty sure that's going to hurt the Patriots' chances to be a top 5 defense that day alone. And forget about the other ones. Like, the Bengals could embarrass you on opening day. If you're not ready, they could hang 40 on you on opening day.
Well,
right?
Is it going to be Ricky Pearsall in the Brandon Ayuk spot? Because now it looks like he's going to grouse his way out. I think he wants to get traded to the Commanders so he can be wide receiver 1A with his boy Jaden Daniels. That would also, if they make a power play and go get Ayuk, I still think they have enough receiving star power between Debo, Pearsall. Who's the kid Juwan Jennings, who actually had a great postseason as well. He just signed for another
Kittle and McCaffrey as key offensive players.
That would all of a sudden give the Commanders the potential for a sneaky fun offense with Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, we'll see. All these things are theoreticals. Remember, we thought the Patriots might have a sneaky fun offense last year. Mac Jones is going to bounce back. Bill O'Brien is a proven coach. How'd that work out?
I don't think I ever thought that. And funny thing is, they didn't. And I think a lot of us
thought they were going to. We kept saying they were going to be competent and capable, and we were using
competent doesn't mean
use the wrong C words. They were a bunch.
All right,
of
and there's your patch free, everybody. We've already gone long on segment 2, which we thought was going to be a brisk, brief run around everything going on. We could talk about Bryce Behringer's golf game for a while if we wanted to, and so many other things. But that's what we got going on. There's your nuggets. If there's anything else, any other tidbits, feel free to send them to us once again at Jumbo Hart, at FitzyGFY, and at 6 Rings Pod. All right, Andy, now it's time for our final leg here on the latest 6 Rings and Football Things podcast. Our Patriots offseason positional previews continue this week. Last week, we were on the offensive side of the ball. You happen to have heard we did it live, blanket. We'll do it live on the Rich Keefe Show. And of course, you probably heard it here on the 6 Rings and Football Things podcast feed. We're now that was the wide receiver position. I was hopeful. Andy said, what was your, I was optimistic or hopeful. And you say competitive. You went back to the C word for the New England Patriots receiver room, which it's funny, as we were just recently discussing ESPN's ranking of the Patriots roster as the 27th best. They said by far the most glaring weakness or the weakest spot would be receiver on the team. There's a chance I think receiver could.
Which I don't get.
No, what else do they have to do? Draft 2 kids. You got a bunch of there's a bunch of 2s and 3s, but is it that bad?
Well, I don't know. Just like I don't know about cornerback. Like if let's just say Demario Douglas is really good in his second year after showing flashes as a rookie, and let's just say somebody from the KJ Osborne, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kendrick Bourne group has a really nice year. Isn't that the same as thinking Christian Gonzalez is going to be the best corner and Jonathan Jones is going to be good? Like, you have a rookie that you're hoping really overachieves and blows up in year 2 who showed flashes, and you have a veteran you're hoping to lean on. Like, it's weird. I'm starting to push back against how bad the wide receiver position is. It doesn't have a 1. And it's lacking that elite talent. But I don't know. I just sort of the way some of these positions are being assessed is starting to bother me a little bit.
Well, this will be a very interesting one to assess because I don't think anyone really knows who necessarily, aside from 1 or 2 people, play this particular position. We're back on the defensive side of the ball. Today, we're going to take a look at the linebacker position. Andy, let's go ahead and do it the way we like to do it here. Let's start off with an adjective. What one single word would you use to describe the Patriots linebacker room heading into the 2024 season?
Good enough. Wait, did you say one word?
Yes.
So this is one of those like slang, good enough.
Good enough. How about would adequate suffice?
Sure. Okay. Adequate. But I think when you put together guys like Juwan Bentley and Jelani Tavai, like,
are they underrated, by the way?
Jelani Tavai is underrated.
Yeah.
I think Bentley is sort of the classic. If you're good enough to be the starting middle linebacker, you're going to make a bunch of tackles. Like, that goes with the job. Like, you're going to get those opportunities. I still think athletically there's times where he gets exposed and is a little bit limited. But he's fine. Like, you can do much worse. You can be significantly worse at that position. And then Tavai has versatility. He's certainly evolved in his time.
He used to catch a lot of strays from Pats fans the same way Miles Bryant did.
No,
and it was unwarranted. Like, he's a pretty solid football. And I bet if you got Bill Belichick on the horn, right, he would probably tell you, like, oh, Tavai was one of my guys.
I have a lot of cheap shot jokes in my head.
I was just going to, Andy, nope, do not think of, nope, don't go 72-24. Right now, he's currently involved in a Matt Light to Ty Law romance, and we'll just leave it at that.
There were things in my mind that were like, is your dad home? Can your dad come to the phone? There were definitely.
I got a lot of flack for saying, what happens if Belichick and the young lady are ever out on an event? He'd have to rent the car. He'd probably get a senior citizen discount. But
there's a lot going on. Anyway, we're gonna move on. Linebackers. But I think that's
it. I'm unsubscribing. You disrespected the coach.
Well, I mean, I think the coach disrespected the coach, but, or the world around him, or social norms, or there's a lot of things.
Her previous BF was 64, so she has a type. Anyway,
yeah, it's not all his fault. Now we're finding it's not all his fault, but I mean. It is what. Anyway, we don't
one
need
life to live. Enjoy it yourself. Six Rings football things.
Okay.
Linebackers. All right, so
linebackers. But
joining. Now this is where it gets kind of nebulous, Andy, because
Uche
so we know
and
Bentley is your he's like the one true linebacker. He's like your middle linebacker, even though he's listed as left inside linebacker on the depth chart. Joining him is Jelani Tavai. Don't forget Raekwon McMillan still in the house. Poor guy's had so many torn ACLs. He's had more torn ACLs than he's had healthy seasons since he's been with the New England Patriots. You also have, and this is where it gets kind of like Marte Mapu, listed on ESPN.com as a linebacker. Anthony Jennings. Now he's underrated linebackers. He just signed that 3-year, $12 million deal to remain with the Patriots. Free agent Sione Takitaki.
No more Takitaki.
And of course, Jelani Tavai and Matthew Judon. Now, see, I don't know if Mapu's going to end up being a linebacker or a safety. I don't think the team knows either. And also, like, I guess edge is a linebacker, or can't edge also be a defensive? Like, edge is that nebulous position that I just hate the fictionalized name. In that case, when it comes to guys that are third down backs, like an Antonio Gibson, he's not just a running back; he's also a receiver. So should he just be called like what they used to call Denard Robinson, OW, offensive weapon?
Right. Well, it's kind of like in college where some people are now recruited as athletes, and they get to that school and then they figure out where they're going to put them because they're just a good athlete coming out of high school.
Right.
I want to rewind to Mapu, who is a guy that normally I would think Andy Hart, would be like cynical of and like pessimistic. I found myself watching him run around in OTAs and minicamp, and I'm kind of becoming optimistic about him. Like, I'm not sure where it's going to work, but I feel like I'm going to want him. Old school Bill Belichick used to have like 17 starters on defense, basically. He would have all these guys that, like, they're role players, matchups, week to week, whatever. And they all were going to play a lot. You weren't sure when, how, why, but it was going to happen. I feel like I want Mapu in that rotation. And I know You have a roster like ESPN in their ranking of the roster said their best position is safety because Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers is like a really Mapu in another world. If you didn't have those two guys, or maybe if Jabril Peppers in a year or two is gone and ages out, maybe he's in that sort of big safety role, the Adrian
Phillips.
Adrian Phillips. Jesus, I was going to call him Gonzalez. I was like, no, that's definitely not right. Adrian Gonzalez, totally different.
Nope.
But I'm kind of buying in on Mapu. And then in a similar but very different fashion, if we're going to talk about these, where do they fit guys and athletes, my guy Keon White, who I'm definitely buying in on, has been standing up quite a bit on the edge of the defense. Now, I don't love that. I think that's like a niche role. Let's not do that too often. I think a good offensive coordinator, if he figures out how to scheme that, will expose the hell out of Keon White. You're taking him out of his comfort zone. But both of those two guys bring blended athleticism to the linebacker room that I kind of like, that I'm intrigued by. And now it's on the only man whose title is the same as his initials, DeMarcus Covington. It's on him to figure out when they should be on the field and how to use them. But I'm intrigued.
Well, there is the potential for the regular hybridization, if you will, of the Patriots defense. I also, my apologies, I left one out of the mix. And there's a bunch of names you'll probably never hear again, like Joe Giles Harris, Jotham Russell, O'Shane Zimenez. There's a lot of names on there that Steel. Oh, they got Steel Chambers.
Yeah,
the Patriots signed Steel Chambers from Ohio State. My favorite name coming out of the draft. Yes, I didn't even know Chambers made it to the Patriots. Oh, happy day.
No, he was doing porn, actually.
That's exactly why I wanted the name. Wanted the player.
Shooting his shot in the porn industry.
Oh, no, Josh Uche as well. Now, see, like you mentioned, Keon White. He's listed as left defensive end, and listed as right defensive end is Christian Barmore. To me, Keon White and Christian Barmore couldn't be more different as football players if they had to, aside from the fact that they're both big, strong, and want to get after the quarterback. So I don't know. Like, I don't think of Josh Uche as a linebacker. He's a pass rusher. Sione Takitaki has taken over for Mac Wilson Sr. this year as sort of the coverage guy. Apparently his coverage numbers last year in Cleveland were excellent. So we hopefully will be calling out his name early and often for another great pass breakup, or holy smokes.
That coverage numbers up your ass.
What's that?
I said, stick your coverage numbers up your ass.
Oh, come on. It's good. Coverage numbers are good. Pass breakups are good. Tight coverage is good. It's just such an interest. Like, it used to be, here comes another back in my day. Here's your latest boomer moment on Six Rings and Football Things. But we definitely grew up in an era where there were 4 linebackers or 3 linebackers, usually the left side, the strong side, weak side, and a middle linebacker. Now linebacker is,
and like, they didn't wear single digits either.
And they've like the fusion of safeties and linebackers and defensive ends and edge players and whatever. Basically, you just have a couple of fat guys, a couple of corners, and then you've just got football players in the middle now, basically in an NFL defense. And I think the fact that you said you were interested in or higher on Mapu than you were previously, that you're definitely in on Keon White, and we know your unrequited man crush for Christian Barmore. Maybe it's the fact that the Patriots do have the potential for a diverse, interesting, and effective linebacker room like there that puts the Mina Kimes of the world saying that the Patriots have a potential for a top 5 defense this year. Because there does seem to be a bit more talent there than the eye may initially glance and recognize.
Yes, I think there is some of that. But just because I like watching them run around in shorts, it's probably not necessarily a direct.
Who had his growing pains last year? I know Daniel Jeremiah loved the player coming out last year for the Patriots, but like he had to get smoked by Tyreek Hill with J.C. Jackson in coverage. Like those are the things that are supposed to happen when you're a rookie. What does he make of his sophomore season?
And I think this is, we all talk about the athletes on offense. Well, you need to match athletes at some level, on the field. You need to match tight ends, running backs, slot receivers, bully slot receivers, like Deebo Samuel. What is he? How am I dealing with him? Like, and I know it's not basketball, so it's not like man to man. You got to match up everything, but it is in a sense like you got to kind of keep the number of athletes somewhat even on the field. I think you can get exposed, and these guys are athletes. Now, you're right. Like Josh Uche, to me, in my mind, has become, and this is how they were sold coming in, Jennings and Uche. Jennings was more of a run player, could set the edge, play the edge. I thought he played really well last year.
Indeed.
Uche is your pass rusher who everybody lauds. I don't think he's reached the potential people claim he has as a pass rusher.
1 year, $3 million deal. He did not have the market that he thought he would.
He turned down much more elsewhere, he said. Much more. Because people do that all the time. They turn down large sums of money to be a questionable rotational player on a bad football team. Always.
Oh, you could have just left it out there. People turn down lots of money for someplace they say their heart is invested in, but you had to say rotational player on a bad football team. I like to say, a movable part or a multifaceted piece on an evolving football team.
You can put lipstick on the pig however you want. I call it bacon.
How does lipstick taste, by the way, when you make bacon? I've never.
Probably not good.
Probably not very good.
Not good.
So again, I can't tell you exactly what the linebacker room is going to be. I can't tell you exactly who's going to make it. I think this is like
Juwan Bentley and Jelani Tavai will play the bulk of the snaps,
and Taki as well, and but see again, Jennings is kind of an end.
Taki. We'll see about Taki. I'm not like Bill Belichick late in his career. I don't just give jobs away. In my football world, you got to earn your job. You got to earn your playing time. You got to get in where you fit in, and you got to find a way to fit in. So we'll see, Mr. Taki.
This is the two of us Taki for almost an hour on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Here. So I'm going to say, Andy, my assessment and my final. So we open with adequate, saying like it's an adequate room, like it's a good room. It's not great, has the potential to be something else. I'm going to say that my projected single, like at the end of the season, like we did with like wide receivers, at the end of the season, I can't give you an adjective to describe the Patriots right now. Like I'm going to give them a big fat TBD because I don't know exactly what the room's going to be like because of its hybridization and the fact, I don't know how DeMarcus Covington is going to deploy a lot of these guys and what their positions are going to be. Yeah, positionless defense is the way of the future, bro. All right, that's fine. Maybe that's the nature of playing linebacker in the modern NFL, but I can't tell you exactly what I think it's going to be right now. So I'm going to go TBD trending upward.
Of course. There's always that positive little spin. I like it. Appreciate it.
Fanboy Lane doesn't occupy itself, bro.
I am going to say evolving. I think that's a good word. And we should mix in also an interesting position that is being coached by two of the better players at its position in the last 10 to 15 years, with Mayo as the head coach, still working with the linebackers, Dante Hightower figuring out who he is as a coach, working with the linebackers. So that's a value. We'll see if that's a positive. I hope it is. I know Hightower was very honest in that, like, this has been eye-opening, jumping into the coaching ranks and like being able to run an hour and a half meeting and not being prepared the first time was like, I don't really have enough ready for these guys for an hour and a half meeting. Why don't we take a break? Anybody want coffee? Let's
Hey, you guys watching that show, The Boys, on Amazon? No?
Right.
All right.
But so I'll say evolving because I do think you're right. The position is evolving. I think they're getting more athletic. I like seeing them get more athletic. In an ideal world, and this is going to sound harsh, you're more athletic than Juwan Bentley really provides. So that's an evolution at some point, probably. But for now, he's your leader. He's your captain. He's your green dot. He is your mainstay. And he's going to probably try to stay that way.
What kind of season will we get out of Matthew Judon as he looks for that one final big payday in the NFL? Can Anthony Jennings be the edge-setting run stopper that he was last season in the post-Belichick era, now under Gerard Mayo and DeMarcus Covington? What does Sione Taki make of his opportunity taking over for Mac Wilson? And will he shove it up Andy's you-know-what? Because Andy said he could shove, or we could all respectively shove our pass coverage numbers. And what about Marte Mapu? Where does he play? Does Josh Uche have a career year, setting himself up nicely for free agency next year as well? See, lots of questions here in the evolving TBD LB room for your New England Patriots. What do you think, Pats fans? Are you bullish on the Patriots linebacking core? Do you think it's a work in progress? Are you down on it? Is this something they should have addressed further? Holler at you guys, Fitzy and Hart. I'm at Fitzy GFY. He's at Jumbo Hart. And this has been the latest at Six Rings Pod. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed our Rushmore discussion, the latest chock full of Pat's Paris, and of course, our offseason positional Patriots preview. We'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday with a What If Wednesday live across all of our respective and the WEEI socials. Andy's off next week. I'll have a bunch of Pat's pods for you, so don't you worry. We will keep your football listening tuned in and ready to rock. For Fitzy, for Terp, and everyone else involved in helping put this together, rather, I should say for Hart, I am still Fitzy, I think. It's been an hour. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of moving pieces. We're good now. All right. This has been Six Rings. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good day. God bless. And as always, Andy can go F himself, and you guys go Pats.